welcome back to the video. So today we're going to talk about if-else statements. Today we're going to talk about if-else statements. So in Python, if-else statements are statements that help a program to make decisions, okay? So if-else statements are statements that help a program to make decisions depending on different conditions, okay? So that's all. That's simply the definition of if-else statements. These statements help a program to make decisions depending on different conditions, okay? So it's like how we people make decisions in our everyday life. It's similar to scenarios like if this happens, then I'll do this, and if this doesn't happen, then I'll do something else, okay? So enough talking and let me show you how we can do this in Python, okay? So basically all we have to do in Python is to write if, and then we input our condition, okay? And then we input our condition. Then if this condition is evaluated to be true, and then the program will execute the line of code which is present inside this if statement over here, okay? So the program will check, okay, if this condition over here is true, and then I will execute this line of code over here, okay? So let's say maybe if we are telling the program that, hey, if it is raining, then I'm going to stay inside, okay? If it is raining would be our condition over here. Then we are going to print a message saying that I'm going to stay inside. I'll show you that example in a few seconds. So, but what if that condition is not true, okay? What if that condition is not true? So this is where we would want to add the else statement, okay? Of which this will help the program to make a different decision when our condition is evaluated to not be true, okay? Yeah, so I made a mistake over here. Yeah. So right now we're telling the program that, hey, if this condition over here is true, then execute this line of code. But if this condition over here is not true, then don't execute this line of code over here, but instead come to execute this line of code over here, okay? So all this might be confusing, but let me show you a real example to this. So okay, so we'll start off by creating our variable, which is called it's raining. Let's say it's raining. Then our variable will have the value of true. So as you can remember in the video where we talked about data types, we talked about boolean data types, okay? So boolean data types are basically true and false, and right now in our variable holds a boolean value, okay, of which is a boolean data type. So here our variable has the value of true, okay? So let's start by creating a variable, and it will have the value of true, and then we will put our if-else statements. So we'll begin by writing our if statements, and as you've seen before, all we do is to write if, and then we write our condition, okay? So in our case, our condition will be this variable over here, okay? So we are checking if it's raining, then we want to do this. So all you have to do is to write if, then brackets, then inside the brackets you write your condition, then put a colon, then hit enter to enter inside the body of the if statement. So inside the body of the if statement we would want to print, okay, so if it is raining, then I'm staying inside, okay? So here we're telling the program that, hey, since this condition over here it is true, then if it is raining, since if it's raining is true, then print I am staying inside. Okay, so let's run our program and see our output. So when we run our program, this is the output that we get. Okay, so yeah, this condition over here, it is evaluated to be true because we are specifically set the value of this variable over here to true. So this condition is true. This is why this body of code over here is being executed. Okay, but what if this condition is evaluated to be false? So here's where we would have to add an else statement. Okay, so we write an else colon, then inside the else statement is where we write something like this: I'm going outside. Okay, great. So right now we are telling the program that hey, if it's raining, then print this line of code over here. Okay, but if it is not raining, where it's raining here will be equals to false. If it's not raining, then don't execute this line of code over here, but instead come and execute this line of code over here. Okay, so right now when we run our program, we still get the same output: I am staying inside, because our condition over here is evaluated to be true. Okay, but what if our condition over here, we set the value of our condition over here to be false? Okay, so the program will check, okay, if it's raining, which is evaluated to be false, so it's basically saying that if, okay, so right now this condition is false. Okay, so if this condition is false, I'm not going to execute this line of code over here. Okay, but instead I'm going to execute this line of code over here. So when we run our program, you'll see what I'm talking about. So on running your program right now, you will get a different output. Okay, we were getting I'm staying inside, but right now we are getting an output of I am going outside. It's because the program has checked here our condition right now is false. Okay, so it doesn't execute this line of code over here, but instead it comes to execute this line of code over here. Okay, so right now it's not raining, so I'm not going to stay inside, but instead I'm going outside. Okay, great. Okay, so one thing that you might be asking yourself is that, okay, so what if I don't include this else statement over here, but and then our condition is evaluated to be false? Okay, so if you don't, in cases where the condition might be false and you don't include an else statement in your program won't be able to display anything. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So right now our variable has the value false and our condition over here has the value false. Okay, so when we run our program, nothing will be displayed. Okay, so nothing will be displayed because our program over here doesn't know what decision to make. Okay, because we haven't specified what decision the program should make on different conditions. Okay, so the program only knows what decision to make in case this condition over here is true. But if this condition over here is evaluated to be false, then the program won't print this line of code over here, and it won't print anything because the program doesn't know what to do when this condition over here is evaluated to be false. Okay, the program only knows what to do when this condition over here is true. Okay, great. Okay, before I finish up the video, I would like to talk about one more thing, and that is the if else if statement. So this is an extension to the if else statement that we have seen previously in the video. Okay, so the major difference between the two is that on the if else statement, we are evaluating the validity of one condition, okay? But on the if else if statement, we are evaluating the validity of more than one condition, okay? So let me just show you what I'm talking about. So in our Python file, we'll write something like, if it's raining equals to true, then execute this line over here. I'm staying inside, okay? But if it's raining equals to false, then execute this line of code. I'm going outside. But if that is also not true, then execute this line of code over here. I don't know what to do, okay? Yeah, so this is a basic syntax of how to write an if else if statement, okay? So we normally begin with an if statement, then we follow up with an elif statement. This is a short form for else if, okay? So elif is else if, and then finally we finish up with the else statement. So what are we basically doing over here? So we are basically telling the program that, so we have a variable over here, it's raining, which has the value true, okay? So here we're telling the program that, hey, if it's raining equals to true, then execute this line of code, okay? And ignore these other lines of code over here, okay? But hey, if this condition is not true and this condition is true, then ignore this line of code over here, then execute this line of code over here, and also in the meanwhile ignore this line of code over here, okay? But if condition 1 and condition 2 are both evaluated to be false, then you can execute this line of code over here, okay? So yeah, so here our variable it's raining equals to true, and now when we run our program, let's run our program and see the output. So as you can see over here in the console, we get the output of I'm staying inside. Why are we getting this output? So here our program executed this line of code over here. Why did it execute this line of code over here? Okay, so it's because when the program checked to see if this variable over here, it's raining, if this variable has the value of true, then we are going to execute this code over here. So as you can remember here at the top, we defined our variable and we gave it the value of true, okay? So this condition over here is automatically evaluated to be true because of course, yeah, of course this variable has the value of true, okay? So this is why this line of code is executed and these other blocks of code are ignored, okay? But let's say here at the variable which change the value of it's raining to be false, okay? And then when we run our program, we'll get this output over here which is saying I am going outside, okay? So right now our program has executed this line of code over here because it has evaluated this condition to be false, because right now it's raining, we have defined it's raining to be false. So the program is checking, is it's raining equals to true? No, it's not equals to true. So I'm going to skip this line of code and then I'm going to check the second condition. So okay, is it's raining equals to false? Oh yeah, it's raining is equal to false. So this condition over here is true, so I'm going to execute this line of code over here, okay? And when I execute this line of of code over here, I'm going to ignore this block of code, and I'm going to ignore this block of code. So in simple terms, this is what an if else statement does. Okay, so it has multiple conditions, of which in our case we have condition 1 and we also have condition 2. Okay, so if either of this condition is evaluated to be true, then its respective block of code will be executed. Okay, so what if now our variable here, it's raining, uh, has the value of 3 maybe. Okay, now when we run the program, we will get this output. I don't know what to do. So why is it printing this line of code and not printing these other lines of code? So I think if you have a guess, you might be correct. It's because right now our variable, it's raining, has the value of 3. Okay, and our program is checking, uh, does this variable over here, is it equals to true? No. Okay, so this condition is false. I'm going to ignore this. So okay, is this condition over here true? So is this variable over here equals to false? No, it's not equals to false. So I'm going to ignore this block of code also. So since we don't have any other condition to evaluate, then automatically the program will execute this line of code. Okay, so this is basically the last resort the program can go to in case all of the conditions above are evaluated to be false. Okay, so it's like in the movies. Okay, so it's like in the movies. I'm sure all of us we have watched movies up to this point. So in action movies specifically, you may find these characters going onto a mission, and these characters on their mission, they have multiple plans. Okay, so they have plan A in case this scenario occurs, and they have plan B in case another scenario occurs, and they have plan C, plan D, plan E, and so on and so on. Okay, so in translating that to our program, this is our plan A. Okay, so if this condition is true, then execute this line of code, and then this is our plan B. So if this condition is true, then execute this line of code, and if plan A fails and if plan B fails, then we resort to this plan over here. Okay, so this is like the final plan. In case all the other plans fail, then we are going to execute this plan over here. Okay, so that's the basic translation of it. So okay, great. So this is all for the video. We have covered the overview. We have gotten a basic idea of what an if-else statement does. Okay, and what an if statement does. Okay, so obviously there's a lot more to these two statements, but right now it's important that we have the basic idea and the basic understanding of the two statements. Okay, and how they are implemented, because they are very important in our future programs. Okay, on the future computer vision program that we are going to create, we will need to use, in some cases we will need to use the if else statements. Okay, so I'll provide further more explanations on other important and necessary areas to cover along the way, but for now, uh, we had to make sure that we have an understanding, a basic understanding, a basic overview of how the if else statements work, and how the if statements work. Okay, so I hope you found this video useful. I hope the video educated you, it brought value to you, and on the next video we are going to cover the concept of while loops. Okay, we are going to cover the concept of while loops. Okay, so yeah, it's because on our next computer vision program, we are going to involve the usage of the if else statements, and we are going to involve the usage of while loops. Okay, so it's very important that we cover these topics and we get a basic understanding of them, because we are going to use them in our next project. So in saying all of that, in having said all of that, I'd like to say thank you and stay tuned, and see you in the next video.